Welcome back to the channel. Thank y'all for hanging with me on this Saturday. So I've been deep cranking quite a bit the last really 2 months because this is the time of year where I feel like if you fish shallow end of spring, beginning of summer, you're really going to be lost as we get further along into the summer. So once we get to the dog days of summer, if you've spent too much time on the bank and you have a lake where the fish really make a big push out of their springtime places, get near the main river channel, maybe you live on a lake that has current, they're going to get away from where they set up earlier in the year. And if you don't kind of follow them, and you fish a lot, you want to stay on top of the fish, you want to catch the biggest bags and the biggest fish on the lake, very important to stay on the fish. So for the last 2 months, I've been out in like 10 to 15 feet of water, and that's not me. I like to stay 5 feet or less, but these months, May, June, July, August, you really have to get out a little bit deeper on these lakes that have a little bit clearer water where the fish really use offshore structures. So I've been cranking a lot and I've been trying a lot of different crankbaits. I think that's a big part of catching fish this time of year before we get to the dragging season. And we're not far from it. Once you get into the end of June, July, most offshore fishing becomes a worm, drop shot, Nico rig, Magnum shaky head. You're dragging something slow in the bottom. But until we get there, a crankbait can play. And when you have these little fronts that roll in or these little storms, that afternoon shower, a crankbait can be a really good player. Today I fished Saturday, so most of you probably have two. You either caught them really good, maybe you had one of those iffy days, or you struggled. That's how the summer fishing is most of the time. I caught some, and then I almost got a hook in my hand, and then I sat in a boathouse for like an hour, came back home, went back out, got the boat, and then caught a 4-pounder. So on a crankbait, and I want to give you a little bit of a rundown on when you are buying some crankbaits, because I know this is the time of year where you're going to buy some deep diving crankbaits. 2 colors is all you need. So I've been throwing a pose. I've been doing some videos talking about a pose. This is an okay crankbait. If you look on eBay, you can find these on eBay, and they're like $10. They run true most of the time if you get one, and it's a good crankbait. But we've come out with better crankbaits because everything's plastic nowadays, and wood is great for cranking. It's not as consistent as plastic, but the colors are much better. So I always like 2 colors. When it's cloudy, when there's low light, that storm's about to get here, maybe that storm just rolled through, I always love chartreuse and blue, and then some type of natural color. Now, again, wooden crankbaits are still good. I still throw a DT series a lot. I throw a DT16, and they do come out with some really good natural colors. They're not real shiny. They're not real bright. They have a kind of that matte finish on them, and this is a DT16. I've thrown it a lot in the last 2 months. Really good bait. But anytime you just need 2 colors, if you have some visibility, and typically when you are deep cranking, you have quite a bit of visibility, I like a translucent color. So anytime I'm cranking when it's high sun, very few clouds, and when you get a lot of fishing pressure, to me, it's all about some type of translucent. So we have a lot of gizzard shad here. That gizzard shad has a kind of a dark back and a real shiny underbelly. I go with just the green gizzard. That's what I crank with. This is a Series 5. I've been cranking grass. The fish here are starting to move off those offshore hard spots, and they're starting to get back in the grass. Or if they're on hard spots, it's around a lot of grass. So you're kind of cranking best of both worlds there. So I have 2 crankbaits. I always have 2 colors. This is also a Series 5. So one is chartreuse and blue. I don't go with the chartreuse powder blue. I want one that is going to be bright, that they can see it. There's no question when it's cloudy, super windy, maybe there's a little bit of a stain in the water, but most of the time there's at least a couple feet of visibility where I'm throwing this. But chartreuse and blue, bright. I would never throw that on a sunny day. As we get further along, maybe the first bit of, the end of spring, early summer, I might throw a citrus or something like that. But as we get further along, this is strictly for cloudy, first hour of the morning or first 30 minutes of the morning, chartreuse, bright blue. That is a great color when they just can't really see much. And then once we get past that, and once we get into these later mornings, because I will start first thing in the morning with a green gizzard as well, as they've seen a lot of baits, or if the water's just super clear. But other than the first hour, or if there's some clouds, this is going to be the bait I'm throwing. So that's a Series 5 green gizzard. This bait runs about 12 feet. I'm throwing it on 15-pound Seagar, so it gets down to about 10, and I'm cranking that around any type of high spot, point, hump that is meeting the current. So a lot of times there will be a ditch involved. There could be a channel swing or a drain, and that's offshore structure fishing. A lot of time on side imaging, a lot of time looking for stuff, trying to find that hard bottom, because that's really what the fish want, that vertical structure. And then we have a lot of grass, so there's going to typically be some grass involved. But again, if you need 2 crankbaits, you need one that is going to work when there's no wind, no sun, high sky, no clouds, lots of sun. You need one translucent, and then you need one that you can see it plain as day, and that's going to be on your more cloudy days. But the 2 colors I always feel like with cranking is something super natural, which is going to be some type of like greenish, kind of that matte finish green back. And then, it's kind of like a dollar bill with that little bit of blue glimmer, but not straight white. And then you need something that's green or chartreuse and blue. And you may live on a lake that's got a lot of tannic water, not a whole lot of visibility. Then you just go with the chartreuse and blue all the time. That's the only one you throw. That would be probably my crankbait choice in just tannic water. But if you have some of that greenish tint water or just gin clear water, you need something translucent. And maybe your fish on your lake aren't feeding on gizzard shad. Maybe they're feeding on crawfish. So you can have that brown translucent or that kind of that reddish colored translucent, but they make a bunch of crankbaits as long as they're plastic. Strike King, Lucky Craft, they have translucents and all kinds of patterns, not just shad. So try that, guys. This is the time of year where you can catch a really big fish on it. It's an easy bait to learn. You just got to put it in your hand and spend some time. Good luck to you, and I'll see you on the water.